people would say, "Aren't you afraid of dying, Ron?" I said, "I'm not even afraid of living." I was born in Columbus, Ohio, and I was raised in southeastern Ohio. I'm the oldest son of 17 children.
17.
Uh-huh.
Wow. And how, what's the age range?
Sir?
What were over how many years?
About 18 years.
Oh my.
The, when I was turned 17, I left, joined the Army, and the rest of my brothers and sisters, most of them were small, and they never knew me. I was a rumor to them, so I never come back for years.
Being the oldest of that many kids, there's probably a lot of responsibilities you had at a pretty young age.
I did. I was always getting in a fight.
So you joined the Army right after World War II to begin with.
Well, actually, about 2 months before it was over.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
And you stayed.
Because the war wasn't over officially until 31 December 46.
Ah.
The fighting had stopped for the most part in August, and but there were still holdouts in both the mountains of Europe and the islands in the Pacific. So they never declared it officially over until they took care of those problems.
I understand. So how long were you in the first time?
3 years.
And what did you focus on then? Where were you stationed and what were you doing?
I was in the 82nd Airborne. I went in the 82nd Airborne when I was right after I turned 17, finished my basic training and joined the Airborne. And I was my first 3 years in the Army, I was airborne. In fact, I flew a lot, but I never landed once in an airplane. Always jumped.
Well, that sounds like a pretty good success rate. Why did you decide not to stay in?
I just at that time had pretty well enough of it, and hadn't really thought about it as a career. When I went in, I was just interested in going in and join the paratroops. I saw a guy make a parachute jump from a hot air balloon, a World War I guy, and I thought, boy, that's what I want to do. So when I went in the Army, I joined the paratroops, and the Army was cutting down a lot at that time, and that's one of the reasons I decided to get out. Mm-hmm. And then my kid brother was killed in action in Korea, and I re-enlisted immediately.
Talk about your reaction to that and then how that immediately led to you wanting to get back in.
Well, like I said, I'm the oldest son of 17 children, and he was the next in line, the one that was killed. And all my life I'd fought for my brothers and sisters. Anybody insulted them anyway, they faced me. And I got pretty good at that stuff. And when my kid brother was killed in action, to me, it was just some stranger killing my brother, not an enemy. And I made up my mind I was going to kill a lot of people, which I did.
And so you re-enlist, and where did you go from there?
Well, I had to go to a refresher course of 1 week. And actually, all I did was crawl underneath a barbed wire with a machine gun shooting over me. Infiltration course. And from there, I got on a ship and stopped in Japan. They took me off the boat in Japan and put me in the occupation of Japan. And I stayed there about a month and a half before I finally got a chance to go to Korea. And when I got to Korea, they sent me to support company, and which is heavy mortars. And I right off the bat, I became a forward observer because I'd been trained since almost the day I went in the Army to start with to be a forward observer. And so when I got there, that's what they made me.
Explain what that is.
Huh?
Explain what a forward observer does.
I call in mortar and artillery fire on the enemy when they expose themselves. And even if they don't expose themselves, I dust them off. I actually killed one awful mess of people, more than you'd believe. I killed about 10,000 Chinese and North Koreans with mortar fire and artillery fire, because there was a lot of targets, the best way to put it. And plus with rifle fire and hand grenades, I killed another 400. Plus, I'm the top soldier in hand-to-hand combat in America. I've killed 20 people in hand-to-hand combat. I had a bad sense of humor, the best way to put it. I could have shot several people, but I beat them to death with my rifle. Instead, I kind of like to rattle their cage. I just got good at that stuff.
Mm-hmm. And at this point, when did you first go to Korea? Have the Chinese already come south at this point?
Oh yes.
Okay.
I got there the middle of July of 1951, and as a forward observer, I was involved in some kind of bad situations. The first 3 months I was there, about 2,000 men were killed and wounded around me. Yeah, almost everybody was around me was killed and wounded. But I got more of the enemy than they got of us, a lot more.
You actually had to push to get into combat, right?
Sir?
You had to push to get over to Korea and into combat,
yes,
right?
Sir. In fact, when I got to my unit, my company commander said, Russell, you're an experienced mortarman. I'm going to put you down in the 3rd platoon as a first gunner. I said, I'm not going down to 3rd platoon, Captain. I'm going on line. And he said, I want to tell you, Russell, he said, I ran the company, and I tell people where they're going and when they're going. He said, you're going down to 3rd platoon as a first gunner. I said, Captain, I'm not going to 3rd platoon or any other platoon. I'm going on line. He said, no, you're not. And I stuck my nose in his eye, and I said, I can't think of a way you can stop me. And he said, the only people we have on line are forward observers and radio operators. And I said, sir, I'm the best forward observer you're ever going to run into. And so after a couple arguments there, he put me up as a forward observer, radio man, then forward observer. I was actually wounded 4 times. I got wounded up on the Bloody Ridge, then I got hit on the Heartbreak Ridge, and then I got hit twice the day of the action of the medal, through the hand and through the arm, or through the shoulder. I never even went to a doctor or a hospital. I took care of it myself.
We'll talk about the action that earned you the medal in just a moment. What was your first experience in combat like? After all that training, the first 3 years you were in, you hadn't been in combat, and now you're in there for the first time. How did it compare to what you expected?
It was exactly what I expected. A great risk to yourself, of course, and but I'm one of them kind of people that like living on the edge, so it didn't bother me. I was very good at what they put me to doing. People would say, "Aren't you afraid of dying, Ron?" I said, "I'm not even afraid of living." The guys was kind of a comedian, you know. I do things there just to irritate the enemy.
So, did it take much getting used to in terms of figuring out exactly where to call in air support? Or
already knew. No, I couldn't call in air support. I called in mortar and artillery fire.
Gotcha.
I could about 3 different days I've killed more than 1,000 people. I was good at it. I was trained right from almost the day I went in the Army originally to be that, and that's the way I ended up.
Do you have to develop much of a relationship with the people firing the artillery and the mortars? Or is it
No.
just a matter of, here's the order, here's the coordinates,
Yeah,
fire?
that's it. I say fire mission, coordinates so and so, and whatever else I needed, and I almost knew nobody. I didn't make friends easy. The only person I had with me was a radio man, and I lost 8 of them, 3 killed and 5 wounded, and then I had to send 4 back because they couldn't cut it. They just panicked too much, afraid of dying, and that was a thing that could happen any day.
You talked obviously about the enemy lives that you successfully took out. You ever think about the American lives you saved?
Yes, a lot of these guys I run into later, and be quite a reunion, I can promise you. They'd hug me, and their wives would hug me, and their kids would hug me, and get me nervous as heck. They made me feel bad too.
Mr. Rosser, let's go to January of 1952 now and set the stage for us. Where was your unit? What was the objective that day?
My unit was Love Company of the 38th Infantry, and our objective that day was a battalion defended mountain about a mile out in front of us, and we had a reinforced rifle company of 170 men, counting all attaches, people attached to them, like fort observers and whatever. By the time we got to the hill, the artillery fort observer had been wounded and lost his sergeant and his radio. By the time we were within 40 yards, somewhere about 45 yards from the top of the mountain, we had went from 170 down to about 35, still on their feet. The description of the thing was the weather was very cold and the enemy was close. And the things just got pretty nasty, and I got on my radio, which was the only one left in the company, and I called the regimental commander, gave him a situation report, about out of ammunition, down to 35 effectives. And I was a corporal, he wouldn't talk to me, wouldn't know if there was any officers alive, and I said, yes sir, we have 2 officers alive, and they were both badly wounded. And he said, is the company commander alive? I said, yes sir, he's hit in the face, his whole face was cut in 2, and he's not very realistic to talk to, is the best way to say it. He's about half out of his head, and I dragged my radio up to him and told him the colonel wanted to talk to him. So the colonel said, I want you to reorganize your men and make one final attempt to take the hill. And Captain said, yes sir. And he looked up the mountain and get this hopeless look on his face. And I heard somebody say, I'll take him up for you, Captain. And I realized it was me talking, and I tried to put my hand over my mouth to shut up, because I knew, I could look, I'm like the captain, I could look up, and I could see about a 200-man burp gun line, submachine gun line, and 5 heavy machine guns. And all the same time, we're getting mortar and artillery in on top of us. And and I knew it was going to be nasty. And the Captain Davis said, said, Ron, how you going to do that? And I said, well, only way I know, sir, is straight in shooting. Move fast and go in shooting. And I said, if we make the trench, maybe we got a chance. And he said, you know you're not going to make it, don't you? And I said, well, we'll try, sir. And so I got all the men that were left and told them, you know, what our objective was. And I said, you don't have to worry about which way to go. Just follow me, boys. We're going in shooting. And I said, okay. So I gave the word and jumped up and I said, let's go. And I didn't even look back. I could hear the men behind me in this crunchy snow, about a foot of crunchy snow. It was 25 below zero too. And I got about 3 feet from the Chinese, and I stopped and looked back, and I was by myself. All the other men that went with me were killed or wounded and laying in the snow. And I thought, well, I went to a lot of trouble to get here. No use wasting the whole day. And I let out a scream and jumped in the trench with them, with the enemy. And I was so close, I was actually sticking my carbine in their rear barrel of my carbine. And I would shoot one or two, then beat some to death, and shoot another one or two, beat some more. You know, I was having a good go at it, and I just cleaned out a whole trench. Then I got to the end of the trench and knocked out this machine gun bunker with a hand grenade, and then went around the corner of the trench, and here come about 35 Chinese charging down right at me, and I'm by myself. And so I charged them, you know. It works both ways, you know. And and they broke first, boy. And I just stopped and started shooting them in the back of the head as they run from me. And they went around the corner of the trench, and I cut across in front of them, and they were running by me, and I was stacking them up in the trench as they run by me. I finally run out of ammunition, and I went back to where I started after I got to the top of the hill, and some kid broke through to me, and he was wounded badly almost immediately. And I threw him on my shoulder and started walking down the hill, and the Chinese run down behind me trying to bayonet me and shoot me. I just ignored them because I didn't have no ammunition, and got this kid on my shoulder, and I'm not going to lay him down and try to run. And the wounded men down in front of me started knocking them down around me, and I thought it was funny. I got to laughing, and I walked down about 35 yards, and I was laughing. And this lieutenant, artillery fort observer who was shot in the chest, he stepped out there and he said, "Soldier," said, "do you know what you're doing?" I said, "Yes, sir. I'm killing these varmints as fast as I can, but I'm out of ammunition. I got to get me some ammo." And he looked at me real funny and he said, "I want to shake your hand." And I thought, well, that's kind of silly. So we're standing out in the open, and the Chinese are shooting at both of us with machine guns and everything else. And I thought, I'm gonna get killed shaking hands with this ignorant lieutenant. But I passed him by and went on, took this kid, a wounded man down, and laid him down where he was reasonably safe, loaded up on ammunition again, and back up the mountain I went again by myself. And I blasted my way through their line and got in behind them, and I took on about 200 Chinese this time. And they were jumping on my back and tackled me and beat me with rifles, and about another dozen piled on me. And it was getting kind of hectic there, running out of space is the best way to say it. I loaded up again, and this time I really loaded up with hand grenades, as many as I could hang on me. And I slung my rifle on my shoulder and pulled the pin on 2 hand grenades and was holding the spoons down and went dog trotting up the hill toward the Chinese. And they couldn't believe one guy was coming at them again. And they hesitated. And as I got close, a couple of them raised up to shoot me. And instead of waiting, I kicked my spoon and threw my first hand grenade. instead of shooting me, they was watching where the hand grenade went, and they went right in the trench with them. And I blasted a big hole in their line there. And as I went over the trench, I flipped the other grenade, in on some other Chinese, and was trying to get at me. And they got in behind the Chinese this time, started knocking out their bunkers. And a strange thing happened. When I was up there the first time, I carried this kid back, and he was actually laying right in front of a machine gun. I picked him up and carried him back, and I went like that to the machine gunner, Chinese machine gunner, and pointed to this wounded kid, and he didn't fire. And so that's the kid I picked up and took to safety. And I got back up there, and I started knocking out bunkers with hand grenades, and I started to throw a hand grenade in this one bunker, and this machine gunner turned around and looked at me, and it was the guy that let me pass, didn't fire on me. And I started to throw the hand grenade in, and I thought, nah, he gave me and this kid a chance at life, and I passed him by. I'd never done that in my whole life, and let him live. And I went on down and knocked out the rest of the machine guns and stuff. And as far as I know, that Chinese soldier never fired another shot that day. And so I ran out of ammunition again and went down and got some more grenades and stuff, and went back up again and was throwing hand grenades all over the place. And I had the Chinese on the run, bunches of them. They were running like heck away from me. And I finally ran out of ammunition, and I went down, I got in a shell hole there, and I got 5 wounded men and in there with me, and with some ammunition. And I told one of the kids, I said, you get all the walking wounded you got, or we can find, and get these dead and wounded off the mountain. And I said, we'll cover for you. And the Chinese would try to storm down and knock us out and knock out the wounded. And we had bust them real good, and they never did quite get to that opportunity. And finally, one of the kids come up and said, Ron, we got everybody we can find. And I said, okay. And I turned to them boys, I said, let's get the heck out of here. And we got out of the hole and started walking down the mountain, and the Chinese never fired another shot at us. And some general asked me, said, Sergeant Rosser, why do you think they didn't fire on you? I said, frankly, I think they was glad to see us go. That pretty much ended the thing that day, but we lost every man. Every man was killed, wounded, or missing. 170 men. And in fact, I was wounded twice that day. Got hit in the hand and through the shoulder. That was the 4th time I'd been wounded.
That's a lot of Purple Hearts.
No.
No, you didn't accept
see, they had a program going. If you got wounded twice, they'd take you off the line.
Oh, so you didn't report it.
So I got hit in the foot the first time, and all it did was hurt a little bit, and I just patched it up and went on about my business. And I got hit the second time, and I knew that I was probably going to get hit again, and so I didn't turn that in either. My company knew I was wounded both times, but they didn't press the thing because I didn't press it. And then the day I got the action of the Medal of Honor, I got wounded twice that day, but only one Purple Heart. See, it was the same day. And so they made me take the Purple Heart this time. And so I was careful not to get hit again because they'd take you off the line. And I didn't want that. I liked it up there. I get even for a lot of bad things. And I was really good at that stuff. I mean, really good. It's hard to say, that somebody's good in, killing other people, but I really was good at it. People would say, aren't you afraid of dying, Ron? I said, I'm not even afraid of living.
So how long did you stay in theater after that?
Several months in combat, and my regimental commander offered, when I got put in for the Medal of Honor, ordered me off the line, but I wouldn't come off. And he kept telling me, you got to come off. And I said, Colonel, you need to go see the medics. He said, what do you mean? I said, you're getting hard hearing. And so he didn't know what to say, so he said, I'll get back with you. And then a few days later, my paperwork hit 8th Army, where I was recommended, and some general called Colonel Rowney up and wanted to know where he had put me to keep me alive. And Colonel Rowney said, sir, he's still on the line, he won't come off. And the general got mad. He said, you go get Rosser off right now, right today, and you tell him that he's coming off, and it's an order from a general officer. And Colonel Rowney called me up and told me that, and I said, sir, I said, would you tell the general this? And he said, what's that? And I said, 1, I'm not coming off the line, and 2, if he bothers him anymore, he can take that medal and stick it where the sun don't shine. And the general wanted to know if I was crazy.
So when did you find out that you had been chosen for the Medal of Honor?
Well, I knew then.
Okay.
I knew then, and but like everything else, you never know if you're going to get it. You're in for it. And when I got back to the States, they had me report to some folks there, and they asked me, said, were you ever awarded the Medal of Honor? And I said, no, sir. And I said, well, we don't know what you've done, but you've been awarded it now. You're going to Washington here in a few days. And that's what I did. My whole family ended up going to Washington too. Whole Greyhound busload.
Describe that day.
Huh?
Describe the day for us when you were at the White House with President Truman.
Well, I went there with my whole family, and President Truman shook hands with everybody but one of his dad, and his dad hid behind my father, and my youngest brother, of course, and he was scared. He didn't want to shake that president's hand, and never did. But I thought it was kind of funny, and finally the president took me and the family outside in front of a big audience, and he presented me and another boy the Medal of Honor. A reporter from WHIZ was recording the whole thing, and he said that here was a soldier that came to the White House to get his medal from the president. He said he looked like a scared schoolboy in the office of the principal. But I don't think that was true. At least I didn't feel that way.
Did you have a private conversation with the president? And
yes, sir.
What did he say?
Yes, sir. Oh, we just talked about things. But I've had a private conversation with every president of the United States, back to include Harry Truman. In fact, I just finished having a nice conversation with Mr. Trump. We were at the Oval Office, and the president said, Mr. Rosser said, how's it feel to be in the Oval Office with the President of the United States? I said, sir, I've been in this office under every president since Franklin Roosevelt. He said, you're kidding. It was kind of funny. But
you know your way around the place. That's good.
Yes, sir. I've been there many times. Plus, I've been to every inaugural ball since Harry Truman. I was with Obama 5 different times, twice at the White House, 3 times on the road with him. George Bush a whole bunch of times, and his father, and oh my goodness. I was with President Truman the day before he was killed. He had promised to take me a ride on his yacht, and he...
You mean Kennedy?
Kennedy, not Truman, Kennedy, and he... President Kennedy, when he landed at Palm Beach International Airport, I met him there. I was going to check, see if he's going to be there long enough to take me a ride, but he told me there, he said he stopped in to see his mother, and he was on his way to Dallas. So he got there the next day and was killed. But it's a strange thing to be around something like that.
Well, it certainly is.
But
We just have a few minutes left in our conversation, Mr. Rosser. So obviously it's been more than 60 years now since the armistice.
60. Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
Armistice of the Korean War. There's two different ways to look at this. Number one, the efforts of you and everyone else who fought on the side of the South can see a huge difference between the North and the South, and at the same time, there's still a threat from the North. So when you see all that, what do you think?
I think somebody ought to shoot that turkey that's running the country now, the North Korea. I'd dusted off an awful lot of people up there. I never fought in South Korea. I always fought in North Korea, and against both North Koreans and Chinese. It was kind of interesting to be able to do all that stuff. It never bothered me once. Never bothered me. My job was to protect the lives of about 800 young soldiers in a battalion, and I was very conscientious about taking care of them. Like a couple times, at one time we got hit with about 25,000 Chinese and 800 kids, waiting there for them to come, and they know they can't stop them. And guys like me have to slow them down or thin them out, or them kids are all dead. And once they break through, they'll just murder them all. I'd bust them up a lot. And I actually enjoyed it, knowing that they couldn't get to tear them kids up. I was always out in front of the whole line, the whole American line, where I could see them coming from every direction, and where I could adjust my fire. And many a time I killed a lot over 1,000 people. Wounded, and God, I have no idea how many more. But they were laying all over the place.
What does it mean to you when you see the difference between North Korea and South Korea? North Korea is sparse and autocratic and just a miserable life for most of their people, and South Korea is thriving as one of the great economic powers in the country, in the world.
I've been to Panmunjom with both North Koreans and South Koreans there. And the South Koreans are big, husky guys standing like this, and North Koreans are scared of it because they're little skinny guys. They don't eat good, and in fact, about half starved, really. And them North Koreans don't want no part of South Korea, I can tell you that. I've watched them. I've been there many times. In fact, my second tour, I was up on the DMZ. A piece of cake, really. I never once worried about them varmints. It doesn't seem right, but that's the way I was. I was trained for this stuff, and if you listen to us today, me and Pat Brady and General Brady and Mr. Morris, training makes a difference. Really, it does. You have confidence in what you do. Even Sergeant Morris said he wasn't afraid. He didn't have time, and mostly I didn't have time either to be afraid. In fact, if things get real hot, I'd get laughing. And I think them Chinese thought I knew something they didn't know. But I wasn't afraid. I never was afraid of them people.